All the experts need to stop. I'm hearing way too many good things about the Denver Broncos as we are now into camp and getting ready for a full slate of preseason games. But it makes me nervous because everyone's starting to fall in love with what the Broncos have done over the last year plus with the drafting of Bo Nix and his sensational play in his rookie season. Of course, the Broncos had the NFL Defensive Player of the Year on their team last year, and Patrick Surtain Jr., and now they've continued to add to their roster. Their defense might be the best in the NFL, and we expect in that Bo Nix, Sean Payton relationship, the offense to continue that upward trajectory. So I'm nervous. And they got all five guys back on the offensive line. I don't need people to share their positive thoughts about the Broncos right now. No jinx in effect. I don't want to hear about it. I just want to get through the preseason with everybody's team staying healthy and getting ready for the opener in early September. But it makes me nervous when everyone's got nothing but good things to say. Like, what am I missing here? It looks good. I think it's going to be great. The AFC West is going to be awesome. I can't wait to see it happen. But I'm very happy for Bo Nix because I like him. I think he's a high-character guy. I think he handles his business the right way. The veteran guys on the team, his teammates, they respect him. But I'm excited to see what Bo Nix is going to do in year number 2. I just like the way he handles himself. I like the way he practices, his work ethic. He's kind of a football junkie, and he's a little bit older. 25 years of age. He's married. He's not the age of a typical rookie. So his, just the way he can handle everything he's been through. And, of course, all the college experience. But I expect a big year from Bo Nix. And the AFC West between the Chiefs, Broncos, Raiders, and Chargers is going to be terrific. And the best collection of coaches in the history of the NFL in one division in Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Pete Carroll, and Jim Harbaugh. No question. 4 great Hall of Fame level coaches. It's pretty awesome. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Hope you're enjoying your Friday afternoon. You got the Rip City Drive on this first day of August on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, I want to continue the football discussion, and I know there are a lot of Bo Nix fans out there. Obviously, I'm a big Denver Bronco fan, and I just mentioned a few minutes ago that I'm tired of all the positive comments that are coming the Broncos' way. I don't want any jinx or anything like that, but I had a chance to catch up with Ryan Edwards from 850 KOA in Denver, the Broncos flagship, and we talked about a variety of different things in regard to camp and the way things are looking right now with the Broncos, especially with quarterback Bo Nix. And the first thing I hit him with was, the whole process for Bo going into year number 2. He's got 1 year under his belt, and he's made comments on multiple occasions about how his understanding of the offense, the personnel, the playbook, being able to get in and out of the huddle quicker, getting up to the line of scrimmage with more time to operate before the ball has to be snapped, and giving himself more time to look at the defenses that he's going to be facing to be able to get his team in the right play, look at the matchups, and be able to get that football out quick, on time, on target. I mean, that whole process is going to be much smoother for Bo Nix. And that's the first thing I asked Ryan about was, this process. How's it looking with Bo going into year number 2?
I mean, it sure looks like that, right? I mean, we saw that even in OTAs and mandatory minicamp, first portions here of training camp. It just looks like it's a lot slower for him as far as the processes go. Last year, it looked like a rookie. You looked like a guy experiencing the system for the first time. This year, he looks like he's confident and he knows where the ball is supposed to go. And of course, this is a very good defense, so that's going to challenge him. There's some times when they get defensive pressure on him, but he doesn't look like, as we've often seen young players, rookies especially, when they don't know what to do with the ball, there's this like sort of panic scramble. I'll see if I can, make some magic happen. That's not really happening right now. I mean, yeah, there's some scramble moments, but he seems pretty calm throughout the entire process. He's putting the ball right on the money. I mean, again, he's going to have some mistakes. It's part of the league, right? But I think that what we're seeing so far is a guy that is kind of elevating to another level. Now we'll see what happens when you actually get into games, but so far we've really liked what we've seen.
How would you describe Bo Nix after covering him now for a full season? Your take on him?
Yeah, I mean, he's just really even, right? Really consistent guy. A lot of the players really laud him for his leadership, and I think that it's just one of those deals. Like he has kind of a quiet intensity to him, but it's something that you can relate to rather than overwhelms you, if that makes sense. And I remember my first chance to get to meet him at the NFL Combine last year. I thought his intensity was kind of a bit of a turnoff, actually. I thought it was like, okay, man, we get it. You've played a lot of college football and you're about this life, and that's great, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a good quarterback. But I think that his leadership, mixed with the fact that he's able to pick things up as fast as he does and doesn't really create the same mistakes often, I think that's kind of been a nice, sort of change of pace, I think, for everybody out there and part of the culture that Sean Payton is trying to build. He puts a lot on the quarterback, and the fact that Bo Nix has been able to absorb that, those guys notice it, and really both sides of the ball have been feeding off of it. So I've been really impressed with the way he's carried himself, and I know they are impressed with that as well.
All right, one of their big additions in free agency was Evan Ingram. He's going to play the joker position in Sean Payton's offense. So 2 questions for you. What is the joker position exactly, and how has Evan Ingram looked thus far?
Evan Ingram has been phenomenal. I've been very impressed, very smooth in and out of his breaks. He's exactly what this offense has needed, but they definitely needed last year. They needed kind of, you saw with Jaden Daniels had Zach Ertz, kind of an easy button. Hey, we need third and medium. We need to complete these passes, these yards. We need to be able to stay on the field. And Evan Ingram certainly allows that. He was that way for Trevor Lawrence. He was that way at times there for the New York Giants. The joker position is just kind of a mismatch, right? So you're just looking to move him around the formation and get him in position where you like it's an advantageous matchup. And oftentimes the tight end and sometimes running backs can be that, right? But, you think about, hey, Evan Ingram versus a safety or Evan Ingram versus a linebacker. You like that because he's a very good route runner. Like I said, he looks more like a big slot. He's a big receiver. So if you get a chance to move him in position where you can find that mismatch, then the Broncos can sort of take advantage of that. But so far he's been great. Today he had like 3 or 4 catches out there during the 2 team periods, and it's just something that that's just going to continue to build.
That's terrific. I had a chance to see R.J. Harvey play live in college last year. down at Arizona State. I was impressed with his quad size. It's incredible, his body and the way he looks in the NFL. But how's he been in pads? Can you see the speed? Can you see his desire to run between the tackles? What do you notice so far?
Yeah, the quads were something we noticed right away during OTAs when they're it's pretty ridiculous. Yeah, he's been great. I mean, today was the first day in pads, so first opportunity really to see what the running game might look like, and I thought he looked fantastic. But again, want to see what happens in the game, but I liked what I saw. He found some natural cutback lanes when they were running some of that outside zone, and when he got a chance to bounce it outside, I mean, he turned the corner quickly and got sort of to the next level in a hurry, and that was something really encouraging to see. The Broncos' run game, as you watched last year, it was just not really anything exciting. It certainly didn't help their rookie quarterback. The Broncos, they know that. They knew that they needed to make a heavy investment, and that's why they brought in him and J.K. Dobbins. Those are going to be your top two guys. I'd say Dobbins first and then Harvey, but it'll be by committee. And so far, like I said, today was a good day for the run game. First time we got a chance to see it with the pads on, and I think he has a chance to be really special.
You know, one of my favorite signings that they had during the offseason was Dre Greenlaw because of the need they've had at inside linebacker for so long. How has Greenlaw looked thus far?
It looks really good. Today he was a little out of breath as they were out there in pads, and if you're at altitude here, that's part of the deal. But it was funny because he is a thumper, and he covers sideline to sideline in a hurry. He looks like he's healthy as far as his legs and everything of that nature. But yeah, he's got to get up to speed with his lungs and everything with conditioning at altitude. But otherwise, we really like him. Guys laud him for his leadership. He certainly upgraded their inside linebackers, and they really need it too because they just lost one of their guys in Drew Sanders on Saturday. He's going to be out probably a couple months. And then Alex Singleton broke his thumb today, so he's going to be out for a little bit too. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, Dre Greenlaw, they brought back Justin Sternad, who played not only special teams but also played some starting inside linebacker. And then they have a young guy in Lavelle Bailey who's really been impressive too. So they'll be okay there. But, yeah, I mean, a couple of inside linebackers going down early is one of the big conversations out here in Denver.
Who's a player that maybe we don't know about that's jumped out at you that you've noticed through practice?
Player you don't know about? Well, Lavelle Bailey would have been a guy because he got an interception on the first day of training camp and then had a nice PBU. I'd say, Chris Abrams-Drain I really like a lot. He's a draft pick last year. He's a cornerback. I mean, I think a lot of the discussion tends to be, of course, around the defensive player of the year and Pat Surtain. They drafted Jahdae Barron in the first round. You got Riley Moss. You already have some pretty good cornerbacks, but Chris Abrams-Drain, I think, is really cementing himself into a little bit bigger role than probably is being advertised. Very instinctual, very fast corner. He can play inside and out. He had 2 PBUs on Saturday's practice. I like I said, it's not to say that he's going to push for starter snaps, but it's a good position to have a lot of depth at, as we know in the NFL. And if something were to happen to any of those other guys, I think he gets an opportunity to jump right in there.
Hey, Ryan, you've been covering the NFL for a long time. Do you recall a division that had better coaching than the AFC West now with Pete Carroll, Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, and Andy Reid?
It's a wealth of experience. No, I don't. No, I mean, not like that. I do think that, each division has kind of an argument to have. I mean, the AFC North is still very strong, right, with Harbaugh and Tomlin. But you think once they added Carroll to this division, it's just kind of like, all right, well, this is a little ridiculous. I mean, there's something to say about an arms race, and then you got to another level where you're saying, okay, well, now it's more than just to have great quarterbacks in the division. Now we want to have the great coaches, and we're talking about kind of Hall of Fame caliber coaches. I mean, maybe it's going to be a bit for Jim Harbaugh, right? But he just won a national championship a couple of years ago. Pete Carroll's won a championship. Sean Payton's won a championship, and Reid with 3. So, yeah, it's kind of a ridiculous division for a multitude of reasons, but it didn't get any easier with the addition of Carroll to the Raiders. But I guess the good thing is if you can somehow survive it and come out of this division, you're certainly going to be tested, and you'll feel like you're in pretty good position for the postseason run. We're
talking with Ryan Edwards from 850 KOA in Denver. I've got a couple more questions for you. Christian Wilkins, the Raiders are trying to hold back $35 million in guaranteed money based on the fact that he's not going about the rehab process the way they wanted. He has filed a grievance. Do you have any intel on this? Do the Raiders have a case here, or are they going to be hard pressed to prove that?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to do this. I mean, maybe they feel like they've got enough there, but that's a lot of money to withhold. We've seen grievances like this before, but not to this magnitude. I know Juwan James here in Denver was one a few years ago because it was $10 million that he was owed, but he worked out outside of the facility, and that's how they were able to hold that against him. I think they ended up settling anyways, which will probably be the case here with Wilkins.
Yeah.
There was some weird stuff going around today about trying to kiss a player or something like that. And I mean, I don't know. It's getting really weird, but I feel like we're just sort of scratching the surface on the reasoning that the Raiders have for doing what they did. But in the end, I think like we all assume they'll probably end up settling.
All right, one basketball question. The Nuggets, I love their offseason, Ryan. I mean, I put them right up there with Houston in terms of a team that went out and made moves that are going to make them a better basketball team. Do you like where they're at right now?
Yeah, I really do. And I mean, again, the Valanciunas thing was for me like the chef's kiss,
Huge.
right? I mean, you've needed a true center to back up Joker, and that was our biggest complaint last year is just how many minutes this dude was playing. I mean, unbelievable, Star Wars kinds of numbers where he's averaging a triple-double as a center for the entirety of the season, but it was going to catch up to him. And they took OKC to 7, but they were certainly on fumes at that point. And you knew they weren't going to get through that game 7 either way. But I mean, adding Valanciunas was really impressive. I mean, Bruce Brown coming back, of course, is great nostalgia for the fans. I think he's still going to have some value. Tim Hardaway's also. They need a sharpshooter from beyond the arc, so that sort of solves that as well. I have a hard time complaining about really anything they've done. And I got to imagine, on a side note, Michael Malone gets fired, but one of the things he was pushing for so long was to add more veteran help. And, of course, as soon as he gets fired, they add a bunch of vets that could really help out this team. So I think that's kind of ironic, but here we are. I'm excited about this upcoming season for sure.
No, you should be. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Jokic was incredible last year, his stamina and the way he played. Now, after, I don't know, maybe a big segment or a post-game wrap, has Benjamin Albright ever tried to kiss you on the head in celebration?
If he did, then I've blacked it out. Like I've totally wiped that from my memory.
Yeah.
But no, Ben is. I don't usually let him in the studio after a game, so because he's been having too much fun. But no, it's that's a weird thing to think about now. You basically gave me nightmares. Thank you.
Yeah, that's my bad. You can follow him on social at R. Edwards Radio. He's with 850 KOA in Denver, one of our sister stations. Ryan, as always, man, I appreciate it. Enjoy covering camp, and we'll catch up soon. Thank you.
All right, thanks, brother. Appreciate you.
There you go. There it is. Ryan Edwards, 850. I think I mentioned this before, but one of my favorite things about this job is the people I get a chance to meet. And a lot of those people are the ones who work in the business, both radio and television, and now in the podcast sphere. There's a lot of good people. And one of those individuals is right here in town. He works for K2 and he does sports. His name is Tyree Smith, who, used to live in Florida, went to school in the Midwest, and then made his trek out to the Northwest. Much like a lot of guys, Travis did the same thing. He grew up in New York and made the trek all the way out to the Northwest, and now he's the voice of the Trailblazers. But with K2 being the home of the Trailblazers and 620 Rip City Radio being the home of the Trailblazers, we get a chance to do some work together, and he's been kind enough to have me on his broadcast, and so I wanted to return the favor and get him on so I could introduce him to you. I'm talking about Tyree Smith from KATU, K2 Sports, and he's an interesting guy. And the first thing I hit him with is like, what was it like to pack up and move across country and come all the way out to the Northwest, a place we had never been before? That's pretty crazy.
It was fairly smooth. One, I think it was just because I was very open. When you're moving across the country, I feel like you have to have that type of mindset to be open to something new. And I knew Portland was very different from the Florida area. I knew that from the jump, from the basketball to the sports, the MLS. I knew everything about this place was different. When I first visited, I didn't realize how nice and welcoming and just how different in all the right ways it was. And so since I moved and I went to the Midwest in college, moving was definitely a little easier than maybe it would be for someone that hasn't. So I kind of figured it out. I talked to a couple of people already. I came to my station and I previewed, and they kind of gave me the lowdown in the area. So to be honest with you, this was moving cross country sounds like it'd be very hectic, but this was actually one of the more smoothest transitions I've had into culture. Listen, I wasn't a Miami Heat fan already, so it was really good to come on and be a Blazers fan now. I mean, it all just kind of went down real smoothly and such. And now I've been here, I want to say, about maybe a year and 6 months or so, starting November 2023, and here we are now.
That's great. So what have you noticed, different parts of the country, the sports fans and what's important to people, it changes based on which part of the country you're in. What are your thoughts on the landscape sports-wise here in the Northwest?
Authenticity. I will tell you that for a fact. In Florida where you have all those major sports. You got the MLB, NHL, NFL, you got MLS, you got NWSL, you have it all there. And so one of the things that I was really appreciative of around here is how much all of the fans genuinely care about the sports teams, whether it's the Winterhawks that's playing on just a random Wednesday night, or if it's the Thorns that haven't won a game all season, but the crowd is still there. You don't see that type of truth and authenticity with fan bases around. And I speak on Florida as an example because there's so much. That authenticity isn't really there. You think they're still talking about that Stanley Cup that they just won a couple of weeks ago? No, they're already moving on to the Dolphins and things of that sort. But around here, the truth and how much these fans genuinely appreciate the players was so eye-opening and welcoming. I haven't seen that. Which is definitely what helps make this place special.
Tyree, one of the stories you got a chance to cover not too long after you had boots on the ground here was the passing of the great Bill Walton. What jumped out at you with all the different people you talked to in regard to what Bill means to Rip City?
Bill was actually I don't know if this is a term, but a player fan that I felt like that didn't exist with Walton, and so many people, including yourself, who gave me great stories on that day, just kind of really opened my eyes. And I look back at all of the footage of Walton playing and just being in Rip City, and how there's no barrier between him and all of these fans. He was here for them, and they were there for him, supported him when he was hurt, or he supported them when the city was looking for a little pick-me-up and Blazers got a dub. I can tell you he was such a boost and such a genuine, stable, and just a genuine person. I got a chance to meet Walton, Mr. Walton, back when I was actually working at my prior station in Florida. He was there for a YMCA event, 6:50 in the morning, and the biggest smile you can have. Absolutely. At 6:57 in the morning, you think people should be grumpy and cranky, and he's this guest of honor type of speaker. You wouldn't think he would want to speak to all these other guys, but he was really just welcoming to everybody, wanted to talk to me, and I actually got it was so funny. I didn't think that connection would really vast until now, but he was one of the warmest and nicest people I've ever met. And so coming around here and hearing those stories, it automatically just confirmed everything I already thought about him.
That's awesome. We're talking with Tyree Smith from K2 Sports here on the Rip City Drive. All right, a couple of weeks ago, you get word that Dame is coming back to Portland and re-signing with the Trailblazers. Walk me through your reaction and that day as you were trying to get, your handle on the story.
You get a good story out of this one, Chad. Listen to this. I wake up, I get off late. I was like, let's go ahead and sleep in. Let's go ahead and sleep in until probably like 10:30, 11, whatever. Nothing's going to happen by that time. Go ahead. I wake up at 10:15, Chad. About to get my coffee started, about to get the day going. And I look at my notifications. Well, I don't know why I have 10, 12 on Twitter. I'm not sure. I didn't post anything the day before. Boy, did Dame, boy, did Shams, boy, did everybody else. I looked at my phone and I looked at Twitter, and oh my goodness, my heart just started beating so fast because I was like, is this real? Is this real? He mentioned this. We mentioned this. This was talked about, but I didn't expect it so soon, and I didn't get a chance to cover Dame when he was here in Portland. So I didn't understand the Dame experience, but I knew the amount of impact he had when I had 3 missed calls from my bosses and everybody's telling me Dame is returning. That's when I knew that this was serious, and we've been able to just get a jump on it, talk to so many different sources and stuff when that was happening. And it was honestly such a fun but crazy day for sure. I mean, wasn't expected, Chad. I mean, I'm sure you can attest to that as well, at least this early. And that day was just talking to folks and fans. And I'm sure the excitement was real. I had literally a fan say he ran into the middle of the street and just yelled Dame's back. that legit just ran into the middle of the street, forgot he was at work, said he just ran and yelled Dame's back. And the entire street floor just erupted. That's the amount of impact Game Time had, and how we are still talking about it, knowing that he won't even be in a Blazers uniform potentially this season.
I love it. Yeah, it was such a great story, and so many people love him, and what it means to have him back is so good. I'm curious for you, being on the outside looking in before you got to town, what did you think of Dame and the way he would ball, before you got to Portland? Like, how did you view him as an outsider before you got to the Northwest?
He needs help. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. Coming from East Coast guy, that was in truest in West Coast basketball, but a little more wasn't too much thinking on the Portland Trail Blazers just in that type of time. But I've always looked at it, I was like, I feel like Dame needs help. When you were on the East Coast, you would hear the consistent names of Damian Lillard, C.J. McCollum, LaMarcus Aldridge, those players that were in Blazers uniforms. And I will be so honest with you, it was almost like people were making it seem like Dame didn't have help. But once I got here and once I saw the situation and I understood a little bit more, that obviously was not the case. More help was needed, but it wasn't the way that it made it seem. I'll be honest with you, Chad. On the East Coast, they made it seem like Dame was the sole player on the Blazers. That's how it felt. But when I was coming over and I was telling all the folks I got my job here in Portland, they're like, uh-oh, you got Scoop, and things of that sort. So the talk about it and Dame of that sort, and the way that I looked at it was, one, Blazers were very fun to watch, but the talk, you didn't hear too much about people that wasn't just Dame, which is very unfortunate because you and I'm sure other folks know that wasn't the truth. He had some help, but needed just a bit more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no question about it. I think a lot of people see it that way, and I understand where you're going with that. All right, college football. We got the Oregon Ducks coming up. Dante Moore is going to take over at quarterback for Dylan Gabriel. I was looking at their schedule, which appears to be very friendly, but, I mean, with the way Dan Lanning's got that program running, I see another 11-win season. I don't see why they can't be competing for a spot in that Big Ten championship. What are your thoughts on the Ducks this year?
That's I feel like that's almost automatic if you're coaching for the Oregon football program in 2025, having top recruiting, being top in the 2025 recruiting class, all of that sorts. I think where you look at Oregon this season compared to probably last season is they needed to truly rely on recruiting a lot more this time around. Dan Lanning said it during his Big Ten media days. There's a bunch of new faces on this team, on that roster. There's a bunch of new faces that folks probably never even heard of. So while Dante Moore, the guy that came from UCLA, is going to be taking over that starting job, still a little bit questionable because you're not entirely sure of what he can do on the field in a full-time starting role with all the pieces that he has behind him. I think this team is CFP is automatic. I think what's going to become a little bit more difficult is where will they land? Yeah, they're going to think about getting those, going undefeated and things of that sort. But, Chad, remember last season, every team that got a bye lost. And Coach Lanning talked about that as well. There has to be some strategic balance to that. You got to start thinking about, okay, how do you keep it that rhythm? Are you going to stay on that rhythm? And Dan Lanning has talked a lot about that this offseason. While people probably don't want to bring it up, that Rose Bowl game was very, very telling. And I think this program has honestly just probably lit a fire under them. I think there's going to be some fun new opponents, especially fans are going to get to see like Wisconsin and Minnesota, USC coming to town. That's going to in November is going to be such a good game. Oregon football has has the range and has what it takes to go to the National Football Championship this season, Chad. The problem is going to be that portal is just as good for every other team. And so you're going to see Penn State, you're going to see Ohio State coming back after just winning the national championship. There's going to be a lot of pathways for Oregon to go, but a lot of roadblocks. And so keep your eye out on the Big Ten specifically this year. There's going to be a lot of teams there that I think is going to come out and be in the CFP, i.e. Penn State, Indiana, Ohio State. So Oregon has it this season, but they also going to have a pretty tough hill to climb. So I don't want to give a final guess, but college football playoffs, they'll be in the playoffs for sure.
And what sports did you play in college?
Well, Chad, I am 6'5", so I was on the basketball court. Just playing now. I was all football and track guy. I played football my entire life, played college running back, and then ran track all through high school and the college years. So I'm a gridiron guy through and through, but this Rip City court is taking me away from that just a little bit.
No, that's cool. I respect that. Now, I'm curious, for me, what I've noticed over the course of time covering sports is that I fall in and out of love with different sports. Like right now, college football is my number one. Sometimes it's the NBA,
okay.
Sometimes it's the NFL. But do you find that with the sports that you cover that you kind of go back and forth on what your favorite sport to cover is in the moment or based on what's going on?
Oh, 1,010%. I mean, the teams that we cover have something to do with that as well. If the Blazers have won 50 games this season and Oregon Ducks, they only won 6, I'm definitely going to be enjoying that Blazer season a lot more than I enjoyed that past Duck season. And so I think it honestly just flows with where we are and where we are in the year. I know right now I'm feeling really fired up to run through a brick wall with a helmet and some shoulder pads. But you ask me in October, I'm going to be ready to see Donovan Clingan dunk on somebody opening night. So it honestly just goes with the flow and goes kind of with where we're at right now. I'm sure that you can kind of attest that when Oregon football was raining hot in 2016 with Marcus Mariota, that's what everybody wanted to see compared to maybe the Blazers that weren't going to the finals that year. So it just really depends on what's kind of going on and what's hot. But right now, everything's pretty good right now in Rip City. If I have to say, the Timbers are doing good. Thorns are going to be coming back. And Blazers are the hottest team to be talked about right now. I mean, Oregon football coming off an undefeated season. I feel like Rip City right now, the state of Oregon is the place to be for sports.
All right, Tyree Smith covers sports for K2. You can check him out. Hey, Tyree, you got a great smile. Keep up the good work, and you're good people, and I'm so glad you came on the show, man. We got to do it again.
Chad, I appreciate you, man. We got to get you off the air. We got to go grilling or something around here before we get this football season started, my friend.
Okay, I'll be in touch. You're on, man. That sounds like a great idea.
Appreciate you, Chad. Have a good one.
You got it. There's Tyree Smith from K2. All right, big thanks to Tyree Smith. That's good people right there, and he is very bullish on the Oregon Ducks. And we heard from Phil Steele, who thinks Oregon's going to be just fine. I think they're going to finish with just one loss. I think they'll lose to Penn State, but it's hard to see right now other losses on the schedule. Now, I'll have to take a look at the quarterback. I want to see how Dante Moore looks, how they're able to piece together that offensive line and then replace the 7 guys who are missing on defense. But again, I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem, and I don't want to overblow it, and that's just because of the recruiting efforts by Dan Lanning and his staff. They got a lot of quality football players in the program. Really it's just now a situation of plug and play, and we'll see how they develop. But, of course, it always comes back to quarterback. They got off to a slow start last year with Dylan Gabriel, but they were able to continue to work and, practice and continue to fine-tune the operation, and they started to play their best football late in the season. It's just unfortunate for Oregon that they had to end up playing Ohio State in their first game in the Rose Bowl. But I think the Ducks, you could have 3 teams easy who make the playoff from the Big Ten in Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon. The Big Ten is got a number of quality teams. Like I mentioned before, keep an eye on Illinois based on the number of starters they have returning. They won 10 games last year. They should be vastly improved. So I think Illinois has got a chance to make a little bit of noise. But excited for the college football season for sure. Now, I'm not sure why. A lot of times with the cell phone, I'm sure some of you have noticed this. You'll get phone calls, and now my phone will alert me where it says, I think the exact phrase is when a phone call is coming in, scam likely. And I love that, scam likely. So I don't need to bother answering this phone call because it's probably a scam. What I want to know is, how do some of these places get your phone number and then start firebombing your phone? So, right now, I'm sitting here in studio, and I just got back-to-back phone calls from an 801 area code. I think that's Utah. So I did a quick search on the phone number, and this phone number that's called me twice, the phone number 801 ... is the Medicaid information line for the Utah Department of Health and Human Services. Their hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I love this, too. Google pretty much tells you everything now. It is important to note that the Utah Department of Transportation, UDOT, warns on their Facebook page about a toll scam that uses text messages and phone calls to collect fees, and they state they do not send texts or make phone calls for this purpose. So, obviously, someone's trying to call me to collect fees. I just hate that I get phone calls like that. Who answers their phone anymore, by the way? I have no reason or desire to answer my phone from unidentified numbers or phone numbers I'm not familiar with. Now, if I get a call from a friend or a family member or one of my kids calls me, no problem. Happy to take the call. There are some friends that I know based on where I'm at and how much time I have in my car, I can't accept their call because they're going to go over the allotted period of time that I have in that moment. I have a few people like that where you look at the phone, you're like, I ain't got 30 minutes right now. I can't take this call because that person does not know how to get off the phone. They're going to talk my ear off. Some people, you look at the phone call and you're like, oh, this is going to be a 2-minute jobber. And you answer the call, you go through whatever you need to go through, and then boom, they're off, which is perfect. What me and my buddy Steve do is we talk, and we can talk for extended periods of time. We talk usually once a week, and the phone conversations are great because we talk about a wide variety of things. But it is understood and has been over the last 25 years, if there is a situation where one of us needs to get off, we can just scream out and hang up and no problems or concerns whatsoever. So he knows if I scream out that I had a reason I need to get off, and I'll hit him back when I hit him back. Same goes for him. And I'm not worried about mind games or why did he hang up on me. I just know that, hey, he had something going on. So I'm not worried about why he needed to get off the phone. I don't care why he needed to get off the phone. He needed to get off. So that's how that works. But a lot of times with these unidentified numbers, it's like, please stop calling me. Please stop disturbing my phone. Or I love that you get a text message from a phone number you've never seen before. It's like, hello, how are you? And my thought is, what do you care? I don't know you. They're just fishing. They want you to respond because they're going to try and lure you into some type of scam, or it's some fake chick that wants to send you pictures or whatever the nonsense is. The problem is now it's like one of my jobs in life is to make sure I prevent my mom from getting snookered. Raise your hand if any of your parents have a problem with the phishing emails or the text messages that come in. Like they can't not answer. It's like, just ignore it. I don't care who they say they are or where they're from or if they're from the Social Security Administration or whatever. Ignore them. It's just a bunch of bull crap. That's pretty much how that goes. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Hope you're enjoying your Friday. Looking forward to the weekend. Going to spend some time out at the coast. You can hit me up at 503-248-0620. You can find me on social at Chad and Rip City. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. I've said it time and time again. I've always thought the Oregon coast is overrated in comparison to how people talk about it. I've been out to the coast many a times over the last 30 plus years, like many of you have. I enjoy it, but there are beaches in other places in the world that I found to be much more enjoyable. But I'm headed out to the coast this weekend. I was able to get a room for a couple of nights thanks to a friend. And so my daughter and I are going to go and enjoy a weekend at the beach. We'll be chilling over there at Lincoln City. And I like it. Kaylee is a fun person to travel with. And unlike my son Isaac, who always wants to be on the move, Kaylee is a much more laid back individual. So I'll be able to sleep in. She'll want to sleep in. I'll be able to get some good rest. And then we can casually get up and go get some coffee to get our day started. So I'm looking forward to it. And the weather has been really nice of late. So it's going to be nice to be out there. And I don't have anything going on. No major functions, no events to host, nothing going on. So it's one of those weekends where it can be very casual. So the drive over, aside from a little bit of traffic, as you know, getting through town, should be pretty smooth. And they got some good breakfast spots over there where you can eat and kind of hang out. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be good. I just can't believe August is here already. Like, it's crazy to me that we're already sitting here and it's August 1st. And I know that basketball season is right around the corner. That is very exciting and sad all at the same time. It just seems like yesterday when I was sitting there mid-April up there on the top of Sylvan Hills with my buddy Josh and just absorbing the fact that basketball season had just ended and all of the long days and hard work had just been completed. And here we are yet cruising through another summertime. And before you know it, kids are going to be back in school. And some places are going to be going back in the next couple of weeks. It's just wild how time flies by. But looking forward to this weekend. And what's fun now, at least, even though we don't have a lot of sports going on, I really am obsessed with the daily football news. All the different reports that come out of camp, all the different reports that come out about injuries. Like, I follow it like my Uncle Gordon follows the stock market, that kind of deal. So loving it. Can't wait because college football season's right around the corner. NFL season's right around the corner. And we'll be able to sit back and finally have everything we need. Now, the first full weekend of NFL action preseason will kick off this coming week. We just had the Hall of Fame game, but there's going to be 3 games on Thursday, and that will drive us into the weekend, our first full weekend of preseason action in the NFL. And for me with the preseason, I don't put any weight on the outcome of the games. I'm just looking to see in the dress rehearsal game, like when I'm watching the Broncos, for example, I want to see how the starters look for 2 to 2.5 quarters. What's the continuity like? How does the offensive line look? Does the defense appear to be on the same page? But these teams don't really show much, and a lot of coaches now are moving towards not even playing their starters in the preseason because they don't want to put their guys at risk of getting hurt. Some coaches still go old school. Andy Reid, he's definitely kind of a player's guy, but he's very old school in his approach. He practices hard. He wants his guys to be physical, and I don't necessarily have a problem with that. One thing we see in college football, and a lot of it has to do with the lack of practice time or the lack of work based on the guidelines, the players, it takes them a couple of weeks to adjust to the physicality of the game. So a lot of times early in the season, first 2 to 3 weeks of the year, you see a lot of missed tackles. You see guys who are struggling a bit, and I think that's just because they're readjusting to the physicality of the game. Back in the old days when teams would go away for camp, they would have, 2-a-days. They'd practice hard. They'd be in pads. Coaches would have each other, they'd have their guys hit. So you get the, that physicality. You can imagine what an old school training camp would have been like with a guy like Bill Parcells. But with time and more information, teams have adjusted. And of course, there's, different rules in the CBA in terms of how many times you can have a guy in pads in practice, how often you can hit and do this and do that. So, you adjust and you move forward. But I'm looking forward to it because college football, we have a number of contenders that I think is going to bring intrigue across the country. And the same thing in the NFL. The AFC is stacked with a number of good teams. And the NFC is stacked with a number of good teams. And you always have to assume there's 1 or 2 teams every year that did not make the postseason the previous season who slide back in, who get it done. The NFL is pretty cool like that, where you can have a down year or you can have a couple of years where you're down, but with the draft and the way teams can improve, we see teams bounce back all the time, which is really sweet. So I like that. And, so the preseason, most of it's unwatchable, but it is football, which is better than no football. And, football season, and we all love it, and for good reason. So that's where we're at. We're getting ready to kick off the first full weekend of preseason action. And then before you know it, college football will be here, and, teams will be preparing for their regular season opener in the NFL. I just saw the Beavers' schedule. Oregon State's going to be very busy over the next few weeks. In camp, working on everything, really focused. I thought Phil Steele made a good point, too, about Oregon State. With their schedule and the way it shapes up, they have a chance to have a great bounce-back year. They got a lot of games on the schedule that are winnable. They've got more depth. They got better players. So at least now if they have a rash of injuries, they should be able to push through that much better than last year. That was a very difficult season last year. The Beavers, especially on defense, didn't have the depth that is necessary. But Trent Bray's done a pretty good job. I didn't know what to expect from Trent Bray. But so far, 1 year in, I like his energy and I like his approach and what he's brought to the program. So I know he's going to continue to grind. Bray's one of those guys where he's a football coach at heart. He loves X's and O's. He wants to be on top of that. And, I like him. So we'll see what having a legit quarterback can do for them. Keep in mind, you can always, podcast the show and listen live via our free iHeartRadio app. You can always pull up old shows on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com, Rip City Radio 620. It's a great way to access the program. And, of course, you can listen to us here on 620 Rip City Radio. But I do appreciate your time, and I hope everyone out there has a very good weekend. I'm actually going to take a couple of days off from golf, which is probably needed. I've been playing so much lately that my body, I'm just tired. My right knee, I'm still dealing with a little bit of knee soreness, but my body just feels tired. So it's going to be nice to rest. And like I said, it's great. The kids that want to get up early on a day where you can sleep in, absolutely brutal. But the kids that want to sleep in and they want to get as much rest, that's the great thing about a teenager. That's what they're all about. So there you have it. All right, you guys have a good weekend. I'll be back with the Rip City Drive coming up on Monday. Christine Brennan from USA Today is going to join the show on Monday, and we'll get her take on Caitlin Clark and her new book, and also the Portland Fire making a return to the WNBA. We'll do that coming up next week. But I appreciate your time. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll talk to you on Monday. Big thanks to Michael Shacker and to all of you for listening. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio.